stop the transcript. I'll keep the chat open so I can see if any questions come in. So today we're going to be looking at the benefits framework. Now, we've sent this out a while ago as a PDF, as a PowerPoint document, and also there was an Excel spreadsheet that went with it, which was the benefits service catalogue. Rather than sort of leave you to dive through all of that material yourselves in your own time, it's quite good really just to take a bit of a breather and walk through it and hopefully provide a bit of perspective on the content that you can then utilize more to go away and sort of work through it yourself. I think part of it is around utilizing this for potentially business case and also the pathway that you're looking to follow, whether that's digital end state or transitional services. So let's have a look at where we take this. So the document itself, so we'll start with the PowerPoint document. The benefits framework really is, as I say, a great tool to start thinking about how you'll look at creating your business case and potentially the pathway that you'll follow. Most of the benefits potentially come from the digital end state pathway, but there are still benefits from utilizing transitional services as well. What I've tried to do is I've actually gone through the document and sort of highlighted some of the key areas that I think are probably most pertinent. So those highlighted bits are the things that we'll kind of touch on today. So when you look at the benefits, it's around what works individually for your firms. We can't really tell you what benefits your firm will actually have. We can point at the areas of opportunity, and then it's really up to you to explore those areas of opportunity and see how they land for you. I mean, it would very much depend on your own operating model, your digital maturity, and the internal processes that are in place today. So for example, if you're using eBot today, you might actually find it easier to implement eBot than eCot for the London market because you've already got that messaging capability and experience in place. Whereas a firm that's been using EDI messages solely today, might take slightly more time, effort and energy to move on to the Accord standard messaging because it's completely new and there's a number of steps that you might have to take to get there. So I think once having worked through the benefits for your organization, you can then use those to support your business case. But also, I always say that it's worth bearing in mind that the business case can't be around pounds and pence alone. That's not really the purpose of Blueprint 2. We kind of had this mantra of cheaper, better, faster. And it's kind of looking under the benefits from those lenses and feeding those into how you support where you need to support an argument for change in your own business. So we have shared so far a number of artifacts, but they've mostly been around the kind of what is coming. So things like the LMA carrier playbook, which works equally as well for the company markets, although an RUA version is coming, I'm pleased to say. It won't be that wildly different from what you've seen. We've also shared the customer journeys and we've had sessions around those, and I've shared the recordings of those as well. And we've also now kind of shared when things like the APIs, technical specs, and the EDI messaging technical specs will be delivered to the market. So again, but that's kind of more around the what side bit. We're kind of at that point where I know that you're kind of looking more for the how, and there's been a number of questions from this group around the how as well, which is, what are the roles and responsibilities, those technical specifications actually being in your hands, the practical processes that are going to help you plan for readiness as well. So they're all things that are being worked on at the moment. My printer started to kick in now, so that's the noise in the background. We'll just try and ignore that. So the elements that we're kind of looking at for today are more around the why, so the what's in it for me. So what are those benefits? So, but I am conscious that we do need to get to the how, and we need to be clearer on when that how messaging will be coming. And the things like data councils, roles and responsibilities work will help. There's elements on how we're actually going to roll this out that will help, and we'll keep you up to date as soon as that information comes into play. So that's the kind of area that we're looking at today, is more the why. The next slide looks at how we break out the benefits. So if we say our mantra is cheaper, better and faster, what does that actually mean, and how can we help you interpret that into something that you can use in your planning? So the items that are highlighted in yellow are what we're going to touch on in more detail today. They're included in the deck, and there's some that aren't highlighted, and they're covered off in the Excel document that I mentioned before. So in fact, there's around 30 benefit opportunities that you can consider, and you know, those all relate to the different pathway that you choose. So let's have a look in a little bit more detail. So the pack also then takes into account the pathway that you might follow, whether that's transitional or digital end state. It also breaks down benefits by the service itself. So whether that's kind of, you know, digital gateway, premiums, claims, faster claims payment, etc. And this kind of then allows you to look at it from the lenses that you want. So if I want to go transitional, then what benefits might I get from doing that? If I wanted to start with, say, premiums and using ICOS and preparing for ICOS, is that kind of, you know, more weighted benefits for me as a firm? And is that therefore going to help me with the change plan and structure that I want to take? And you know, I think probably the better, faster, cheaper is really just underpinning potentially how you maybe structure some of your arguments as well. So if we start, have a look at the next slide. This one really is a bit of a guide to how to use the document. It obviously sets out where the benefit is, or what the benefit is, which solution it relates to, the type of business that it covers, so whether it's open market, DA, prop treaty, or reinsurance. What it's dependent on, so what it needs to realize that benefit. There's an element of complexity of change. So do we think it is you know, something that happens automatically, minor change, medium or complex? Which adoption pathway it is supported by, and which of the kind of benefit areas of cheaper, better, faster it supports as well. So that's kind of a bit of a navigational tool. If we look at the benefits by opportunity, so we've looked at the kind of better focus. These are the key areas that have been highlighted out. So we know that the current mainframe services and bolt-on services are not that user-centric today. So the new digital services will look to address some of this. It's really more of a benefit for your employees who interact with them. In some cases, it might be a minimal benefit where touch points are already automated. So if you've got receipt of a premium EDI message and that flows directly from the bureau or your kind of gateway service provider or claims service provider, no, not claims on premium, directly into your system, then there's probably not going to be a huge amount of benefit because people aren't, you know, interacting with a aged portal that they find cumbersome to use. In some cases, as I say, your service providers might be making the changes for you, and that's really why I've been asking around, have you been in contact, you know, identified and been in contact with your PAS system provider, your messaging gateway provider, or a claims management system provider, because, you know, they may actually simplify the process of making changes for you to enable you to receive those messages in the future. For others, it might just be purely around your IT team that is going to support you with that. So when you then look at other opportunities, we know that we can integrate the new digital services, such as sending kind of API messages directly from ICOS, which would mean avoiding having to log on to the ICOS portal. So that kind of comes under the improved digital integrations opportunity benefit. Now, once you do that, if you've kind of got that direct relationship between a claims management and ICOS, it means you don't log onto the portal, you can move through the claims adjudication and process settlement more smoothly. And it also means that with that additional granularity of data, you may have the opportunity to call data from the reporting tool in the new digital services, or data from the CDR that work, more seamlessly with your internal systems. And they may be nice to have. So if you're kind of preparing for IPOS and IPOS, but you also want to look at how you utilize the better granularity of data that these digital services provide, you might prioritize being ready for IPOS and IPOS first, and then look at what that data opportunity brings and set up for that afterwards. Also then kind of looking at agility, the digital services, they're built with the future in mind. So it's kind of much harder to make changes to the existing systems that were built kind of years ago. They're the mainframe models. These new services will allow for changes to be made without those fundamental changes to the entire platform, because they are built in a modular design. So one module can be updated without rewriting other modules. Of course, there'd have to be kind of end-to-end testing if a change is made in one model to ensure that the data and the processes still work smoothly. But today, where a change is required to a mainframe, it means bringing the whole thing down, making that change and making sure it all works smoothly, which is a much bigger ask. So it's kind of an element of future-proofing around that modular cloud-based technology. It also means that we've got access to many, many more resources that can actually develop that technology. What we are finding in the market is, based on the age of some of the platforms, which are maybe 30-year plus old, the knowledge and experience to maintain those and reprogram those is seeped from the market through retirement generally. And so we don't have those skill sets to be able to develop those systems going forward. So this new cloud-based technology modular approach really means that we've got the ability to keep progressing the services as we go forward. So it's not a once and done. There is that once it goes in BAU run state, there would obviously be a series of change requirements factored in going forward. Also, I think the kind of use of technology, as the next one kind of looks at reduced risk, is that we kind of got that more resilient technology in place. It's modern technology, more people to support it, higher focus on security. Cyber attacks are clearly something that are on the increase. So utilizing the latest and best that we can, technology to fend those off, and again being able to continually build against those types of threats are going to mean that there's less chance of data corruption, market services downtime, and of course from a compliance perspective, that you can evidence that the services that you're using are resilient to those types of issues. Likewise, on the last one, sometimes just the simplification of something. So looking at what we collect, the data we collect, so splitting out tax from regulatory reporting, that's going to simplify the way accounting is done. I think this is an area that I want to get under the skin of a little bit more, and I think I'll set that up as a separate session in itself, because again, there is a complicated way that tax and regulatory reporting are managed at the moment. If this can simplify that, really just want to be able to show you how that works in practice, but that's an area that I think we could probably almost dedicate a short session to in the future. So that's the benefits under the better side of things. Moving on to faster, and if you do have any burning questions, do come stick your hand up or drop it in the chat, but otherwise I'm going to plow through this content and then pick up with you at the end. But then looking at the faster elements of this, there's obviously some very tangible benefits around the new digital accounting and premium settlement process, and that's really around getting your premium income faster. So at the moment, we could end up binding a contract and it could take several days, or in fact, in some cases, several weeks, once any queries or errors are resolved, before that payment process is able to be completed and you end up with that premium income. So I suppose around the benefit side, it's starting to think about, what does that mean for us? Is there a financial benefit in getting that premium income faster in terms of how that's invested in your business, or whether that can reduce some of the reserving capital that you've got because you're actually replacing it with the income you have? I don't know. But there are areas that you can explore to see if there is a financial benefit for that. On the claims side, obviously we'll start to benefit from parallel processing with the new digital services. At the moment, we go through a sequential process with ECF that all the queries need to be answered and made before payments can move forward. Under parallel processing, you'll be able to make partial payments or trigger payments at the right time when something's ready, rather than waiting for the last bit to be in place before that can be made. There's also the direct settlement opportunity as well, so that would be making payments outside of the RBS route, and that means that payments could be made within hours instead of days. So all of this kind of supporting around faster payments, if you like, is giving a reputational benefit. So brokers are going to be happier to work with those carriers that are making faster payments for their clients. And obviously their clients are going to be happier that they're getting claims settled faster as well. So overall, the reputation for the market, and so therefore your future participation in the market, is supported as well. If we look at kind of premium certainty, so eBot messaging provides structured data earlier in the process and ahead of settlement. So, maybe it's considering, can this be used to improve your capital management? Is there anything around improvement to financial reporting or regulatory reporting? Again, an area to explore to see how you present that as a benefit to you. Looking at the next area, we kind of look at the removal of batch reporting and processing. So if we'll be able to provide information sort of more real time, so around the clock, you don't have to wait for those batch reports to happen, when then obviously if there's a number of activities need to be looked at, they can only start at that point. It could be spread across the day. So looking at your teams who look at that today would, with this kind of more real-time data, enable them to work more efficiently rather than having lumps of work that they have to start with. If it's kind of drip fed through the day, will it enable them to get those queries and what have you back faster? So again, supporting faster settlement. So if it's faster settlement around premium and accounting, then that premium income's arrive faster. If it's around claim settlement, then there's the kind of reputational benefit from either a broker or end policyholder's perspective as well. So then again, we look at automated matching in the claim space. So we've sort of touched on this previously, but at the moment there is a manual check when FNOL comes in to make sure that it matches the coverage on the policy. Having the CDR in place means that that can be automated. So if we move to eFNOL, there can be those auto checks against the CDR for, has the premium been paid? Is it in the right jurisdiction, etc., etc. Those checks can be automated. So that means the adjudication process starts faster, and again leads into ultimately a faster claim settlement process, because it will link into the ICOS platform to set up that claims record, and the ICOS platform far more transparent and easier to use than ECF would be today, and with all those parties having access to understand where the claim is in its journey, what's outstanding, who it's outstanding with, when it was last chased up. So the combination of all of these things really will provide that better claim settlement service for the end policyholder, and of course from a broker perspective too. So as I say, they really do focus on customer satisfaction, which should feature as a benefit in most people's worlds. And that's whether you term your customer as the broker or the end policyholder. So they're the kind of the key ones that were highlighted for faster. Then on the cheaper side, aligning London market messages with global messaging means that firms can use the same approach for all the business written, rather than tailoring their systems and processes purely for the London market. So again, it's very considering how, after the initial investment to get there, could this drive benefits for your business? So if you're now just dealing, say, in digital end state purely in ECOT and EBOT messaging, whether that's for London market business or wider global business, you haven't got either people having to maintain or look at any changes that come on two different types of messaging. It was purely going to be around one set of messaging in the future. So really consider any benefits that that might bring. When we look at validations, if we're kind of again removing the batch processing, it means that we can move things faster, through things faster and quicker. And those query loops today, I mean, you know, human errors are really real in our market. So if we can automate validations and reduce the time spent going around those query loops, then again, everything moves faster. It's a better service for customers, and money movements move faster as well. And we know that if we kind of look at it in the third-party costs perspective, that we're aiming to reduce costs for transactional costs by 40% once the market's in the full digital end state. So again, it's worth looking at and quantifying what that actually means to you. Is it a significant amount of money, relatively insignificant amount of money? But at least if you quantified it, you're able to present that within a business case and present it as a benefit with a number attached to it. And, you know, at least it is a tangible benefit in that perspective. I think in terms of the next one around avoided dual run costs, this is kind of twofold to a degree. We've got the fact that if we didn't provide the digital services and the transitional services, we'd be running the old mainframe systems plus the new digital systems, which would be a cost, and that cost would have to be passed on to the market. But by providing the transitional services, it means that those old legacy services can be sort of you know, frozen in time. They're still there to reach back to get data from, to set up a new digital record. But actually all of the transactions will be done in the new digital ecosystem. And again, this the investment for this change is being funded by the joint venture. That cost isn't being passed on to the market participants. When we looked at, say, LM Tom, and there was an addition to the levy for the managing agents, which funded that. But in this case, it is being funded by the joint venture. So again, if other suppliers you may work with, if they were doing a rewrite of their systems to create a digital platform, the chances of that being provided at you know, no cost to yourselves would be fairly limited. So again, if you're looking at that avoidance or cost avoidance element, there are some elements that you could bring into it as well. If you then look at the last one around optimized capital, we're kind of looking here really around the FCP side of things, and I know that's not really an area that most of you on this call will look at because it looks at DA claims. So and most of you don't work in that space. So I think on that side, we'll probably move on from that one. So that covers the three areas where benefits can be looked at, picking out some of the kind of key areas that we see benefits being derived from. If we now look at pathways, as a kind of, you know, sort of takes us back towards the beginning of the call where we said, look, digital adoption pathway, that is going to bring the most benefits. It you know, clearly has been designed that way, that if you've got data flowing freely through the IPOS and ICOS services, they're integrated with your platform seamlessly, and that's all been predicated by the use of the CDR, which has been created off the back of the IMRC, then that is where the benefits really reside. Obviously, from a transitional perspective, yes, there may be sort of, you know, benefits of minimizing the complexity of change to get us to a certain point in time for market cutover. But then you also have to consider that you've made those changes, but then there will be further changes to get to digital end state. So there's an element of, you know, do I leapfrog the transitional requirements and go straight to digital end state, will that actually save me any money in that process? Or is it, let's get and do the bare minimum that we need to continue to be able to operate in the market, and then consider digital end state? And you'll have heard me say probably 1,000 times, they're not exclusive of each other. You can be working towards transitional services for market cutover, but have half a leg in the camp of digital adoption. So you could have already made some steps towards digital adoption by that stage, but not be fully ready for digital adoption. And then you can move to digital adoption, you know, the next 6, 12, 18 months or whatever it may be over time. So they're not mutually exclusive. And I think at some point, we'll need to get to those individual conversations around, well, which way works for you? What is it that you're going to be targeting? Which pathway is it that you're going to follow? And then I can adapt the support around, if it's transitional services, this is what you need to get to be ready for that. And if it's digital adoption, then it's, you know, this is the pathway and elements that you need to have worked through and incorporated into your change plan. So I think that's, you know, the kind of benefits by adoption pathway that, again, once you've made that decision, it will make it easier to consider what you're looking at. The following slides, and I'm not going to go into these in minute detail, they really do just set out the benefits by the solution. So overall, if you're going, the pathway is core digital, you can see, as I said, there's kind of far more benefits under that core digital compared to the transitional as shown on the slide here. So if you're looking at that level of benefits versus that level of benefits, you can see there is a clear advantage to the core digital or end state digital services. So again, it's looking at that and making a decision around which pathway you'd like to follow. And I am conscious that there's probably still more information that you're looking for from us to be able to make that decision fully. So it's not something I'm going to be knocking on your door for, you know, before Christmas. But I think probably as we get into Q1, trying to get a sense of which way you think you go will really help. So then we start looking, you know, that some of the benefits, well, no matter what which pathway you choose, there still will be some benefits in there. And again, this slide just gives that kind of the summary of it. Then we kind of look at the benefits by service. So just as an example, if you look at the digital gateway, it gives you the list of the benefits, where we think those levers are, which solution provides them, and you know, whether it's down to the kind of digital end state pathway or transitional pathway that delivers them, what type of business they're applicable for, and any dependencies to realize those benefits. And again, this kind of handy bit around how we think or how complex we think that change might be. So these slides go through obviously digital placement. They also cover off the premium services. So IPOS, there's another one for ICOS, and finally there is faster claims payment, but that's not of so much interest to you guys. So as you can see, trying to break it down at a service level, that might also give you some insight as to, well, actually, we see there's more benefits in digital premium accounting and settlement. So let's put in our change plan that that's what we're going to target first. Because again, by market cutover, it may be that you actually want to go, you know, digital services for premiums, but use transitional for claims. That could be a possibility, could make it a complex structure for you. But and I think that's probably one of the things that is being worked on at the moment, quite crucially, is how this rollout will happen. So we started the conversation around, look, we've talked about big bang market cutover, day one, everyone moves to transitional services at minimum, and those that are ready to go to digital end state move to digital end state or start making their way towards that. There is, you know, now conversations happening around, is that the best way to do it? Is there a way that could be less risky for the market? If you do the big bang approach and something doesn't happen right on the launch, you can always revert back. But then also, is there a way of potentially looking at different types of business and starting with that? Is it starting with the different services? So maybe you start with IPOS and then follow with ICOS. All of those discussions are happening now. It shouldn't make too much difference in terms of the work that we need to do to be ready for it, because ultimately, if you're ready for IPOS, you'll probably be ready for ICOS anyway. It's be more around just ensuring the best way of doing it for the market. So I don't think it means that until that decision's made, we can't do anything. It means that we kind of keep working towards whichever pathway you choose, and then you're ready at that moment in time. And that moment in time, again, you'll be hearing noise around when market cutover is aimed for. I've previously said that we were targeting mid 2024 for that market cutover date. I know on Monday session on 5th of December, we'll be going into more detail around a movement to that target date. I can't really go into too much detail around it before Monday, but you're all invited to that session. And those that are invited but can't make it, obviously some of you are abroad, so you wouldn't be coming to London just for that. We'll make sure that you're updated swiftly afterwards. But again, if there is a move back in that timeline, I say if, when there is a move back in that timeline, again, it doesn't mean that we'll have time to put our feet up and just sort of say, right, okay, we don't have to do anything now. It will be a case of probably just giving more realistic timeframes about getting some of this information that you need to make the decisions around your pathway and to start preparing for the change. It will just give a little bit more breathing space to enable that. So I think they're probably the key things that I wanted to cover from the benefits session. I'll come back on camera and stop sharing and see if you have any questions or comments. So stunned silence, but does that help you navigate the document? Does that give you some areas to focus on? What's your kind of view of are those benefits? Are they something that you think you can tangibly add to a business case? Do you think that there's not enough granularity for you? Any feedback would be more than welcome. And likewise, if there are benefits that you recognize or identify as you start to work through this that aren't included in this deck, then please do share back, because I think we will be doing iterations to this material as well, which we can include. So I think you've heard my voice for enough. Is there anything that you would like to share or questions that you'd like to ask around that? See no hands. I can see no comments.
Obviously, the standard comment, Alan, is thank you very much indeed, as always, very helpful in guiding us through that. And obviously, the recordings are very helpful for us to be able to share with colleagues and develop that strategy, as you say. So, it's difficult to say all the questions, but thank you very much for the presentation.
No, that's fine, Duncan. It's good to get something back at the end of it rather than stunned silence. So, I mean, that's really important to me. If these sessions are useful, that is helpful. And likewise, if there are questions that you think of afterwards, maybe you're listening to the recording and you think, oh, I'm here, I'm here. Pop me an email. There's also the question portal that's in place. Hopefully you've seen where you have asked questions, you've had answers back. If you haven't, give me a kick, because you should have done by now. So it does work. Anything else, or we can look to potentially wrap up the session?
I was just going to say as well, it's really helpful. Thank you to walk it through. I have read it before the call, but it just brings it to life to actually walk it through as a group. So good session. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alison, and thanks for joining the session yesterday on Gateway. I saw you
yes.
being actively involved in that one. So as you can see, I'm championing the cause around change in all areas, whether it be internal meetings or external meetings as well. So, okay, I think I won't labour it. I'll take it that this has been a useful session. I will share the link to the recording of it, so you can utilise that with other people in your business. And this is one of the key things of having you folks as a single point of contact, is to make sure that information is shared back within your business, within the right areas. We have had in some cases feedback saying that you know, there's a lot of people who don't know about Blueprint 2 and what's happening with it, and maybe that's at a claims adjuster level, maybe that's at the underwriter level. But if you can also think about how you share back some of the knowledge that you're getting around Blueprint 2, you know, is there an opportunity to attend you know, a claims adjusters monthly meeting or something as a one-off, and give them a flavour of what's happening and what they can expect from Blueprint 2 in the future? Is there, you know, your back office teams, do they have an opportunity where you can go and do a 15-minute update on Blueprint 2? So again, that's an ask from me, is that we want to avoid you know, that type of feedback, because we've got a point of contact in every single firm across the market now. And really, if you can do anything to share the information that you're getting with the relevant teams, whether it be IT, I know you're more connected with them around this at the moment, but more broadly within the business, maybe have a chat with your internal comms folk and see if there's something that there's a newsletter you could add a short piece to. That would be greatly appreciated, because the more people in the market understand that change is coming and what that change looks like, the better it will be. And if more of your teams have something to look forward to around a better market experience and better services, I'm sure they'd be pleased as well. So I'm going to close with that plea and run away before you say you're asking too much of me. We will continue obviously with one-to-ones. If you do have an outstanding request to catch up individually, please do try and find the time for that. I'm trying to make sure I don't over egg the contact that we have. And obviously we do have the sessions next week. At the moment, the 5th is obviously completely on. The 14th, we're looking at the train strike, monitoring that. If it looks like that's likely to be on, then we will cancel the session and move it to January. And we'll try and make a call on that. We were looking at late next week, but I'm going to try and pull that earlier just so people have certainty around whether it's happening or not. Okay, so on that note, I will leave you to it. Thank you for your time. And I'll send the recording round as soon as it's available.
Thanks, Alan. See you Monday.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.